Hello and welcome to the Afri Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so much for tuning in to our broadcast today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live from the social medias like Facebook and YouTube, welcome. Welcome. We are so thrilled that you could find some time out of your busy schedule and joining us live today. And we'd love to have you as we discuss our issues today. Please be sure to share our programs. Also, subscribe and follow to our social media platforms so that you may have an opportunity to either leave us a comment, know that we are live, and come and share with us your ideas, your opinions, and what have you as far as our show, but also so we can get to know what you care the most about your daily lives and so on. And I want to also let the rest of you joining us, especially from the rest of the platforms, television, radio station, of course, social media, that here at Afri Dominion, every conversation, every program that we have, we program it and we get to intend. Our intention is that we speak to you frankly, boldly, and with no apologies, especially to the issues we care the most about. And it is in this spirit that everything we get to share with you, everything we discuss with you, it is all in the spirit of love, trust, or I should say trust, love. I think I'm mixing it. My apologies. The spirit of everything we do it in truth, love and trust. I just went blank. And we would love for you guys to measure the content of everything that we are sharing with you based on those benchmarks. See if any of the things that we are sharing with you has some truth to it. See if anything that we are sharing with you has actually the core love as the basis in it. See that if anything that we are sharing with you, you can trust it. And we welcome each and every one of you, especially if you find something that you do not agree with, something that you don't feel is correct or is inaccurate. That's why we have these platforms. That's why we say come openly during life, so we can have an opportunity to change or to make some changes to those statements or whatever it is that we are sharing with you. But I assure you, nothing that we do here, we do it under the hood. We make sure that everything we do, it's all up in the open. We believe that everything that we do, if we do it all in the open, each and every one of you has an opportunity firsthand to either agree right away or disagree, and then you can make a decision as to whether you can actually contribute to the content of everything that we are sharing. But we are absolutely truthful, and we are driven by love, and we are driven by trust in everything that we do here at Afri Dominion. And with that in mind, I also would very much love to encourage each and every one of you to please be sure to leave us some sort of feedbacks. We'd love to have feedbacks. Why? Because it is the only way we get to know whether you either like or dislike the content that we are providing. Remember, we're doing this because it is something that we care deeply about. So if we truly care deeply about, we also would love to hear from you. This is not just a one-way conversation. We would love it to be two-way conversation. We are ready anytime you're ready. Come and have you saying as it happens. We would love to hear from you. So with that in mind, each and every one of you who would love to leave us a message, be sure to pass by our website, which is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Our main email is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. When you reach our website, you are going to be, you will find other information. In particular, I would love for each and every one of you also who follow these programs to join our private group, our private Telegram group. This is a group where we can actually meet with the rest of the like minds. You come over, you get to see what we are doing, especially activities that we do behind the scene, behind the cameras. Those that we don't necessarily get to broadcast and share with you. So come there, be a part of that, also contribute. We also love that if you do find any of the things that we're doing here, we would love that you actually get to also support it beyond just sitting down and watch the program as it happens. Come and spend some time with us. Come and spend your resources with us. Come and give us some ideas so we can be able to improve all the programs that we have pre-programmed for you guys, even those that we get to have in real time, like on Friday, when you get to have a saying, when you get to drive the agenda. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Afri-Dominion, what is Afri-Dominion? Afri-Dominion is an idea that inspires, advocates, and encourages a complete and total dominion of Africa by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all, or one country at a time, all for the interest of African people, or all in the interest of African people, primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. So hence the Afri-Dominion show, we get to become the mouthpiece of this idea. We get to become, we get to push the communication. We get to inspire on platforms, on various platforms, the same idea that we have. We get to distribute, we get to distribute them worldwide, especially to all those of you Africans, all those of you African descendants. Why? Because it is then we can actually rebuild ourselves and do what we have to do, just like the rest of the communities all over the world. So, here at Afri-Dominion Show, we inspire, we advocate, and we encourage through the platforms of media a complete takeover, a complete management, a complete dominion of Africa, continent, African leadership, African management by its sons, daughters, and African descendants for the interest of African people primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. I always say that when we get this specific, we literally want you to differentiate that from discriminating. If your house is on fire and your neighbor's house is on fire, whose house do you attend to first? Quite obviously, you attend to your own house first and foremost. So that's why we say this program is primarily directed to the African people, the African content, the African sons, daughters, and descendants. Why? Because we have been asleep for centuries, for decades, for years. And it's about time. This is our season to wake up. This is our season to take back responsibilities, to take back the accountability of everything we have to do as African, instead of put out a handout and beg all over the world for the things we already have at home. So this is the spirit by which Afri-Dominion Show was created, and the Afri-Dominion also as a concept. That is the reason why we are here today. And with that in mind, given that the idea itself is so broad, we've taken it upon ourselves to slice it into different themes. So we at least have 5 major themes, which corresponds to 5 days. We broadcast from Mondays all the way through Fridays, 12 to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time or Washington, D.C. time. On Monday, we have one theme, Tuesday, another, Wednesday, Thursdays, and so on. So on Friday, for those of you who are, on Mondays, for those of you who aren't familiar, we talk about the eradication of refugees and persons, and stateless persons. Again, we focus on African. So essentially, we focus on the eradication of African refugees and African stateless persons. On Tuesday, we get to talk about the Constitution, law and policy review and implementations. Why? Because the entire continent is driven by Constitution, by laws and policies. If you have no single clue what these things are, we get to talk about it in a way that they become comfortable to you. That you do not feel stranger of something as important as a constitution, something as important as a law, something as important as a policy. We want to remove these words from the academia sphere and bring them back to you. In fact, just break them down to the point you can actually relate to them. That is our purpose of these particular themes. These themes are there to break down everything that seems to be coded so that you can actually relate to them. On Wednesdays, it is our testimony time. This is the day where you actually testify of you, your family, community, your own nation, from your own words, from your own experience. You get to take a pen, you get to take a microphone, you get to get in front of a camera and write your history. And for us to preserve it for thousands and thousands of years to come. There's no better privilege than the privilege of actually writing down your own history. Africa, for centuries, we have lost our history, purposely, by the way. The history was not lost intentionally. We've lost our history our history intentionally and purposely, not by accident. That's what I mean, actually. You know that Africa was colonized. Slave trade. For centuries. But before slave trade, before slavery, before all the horrific things that were done to the African continent, Africa was leading itself. Africa was self-governing. Africa was an empire. Few empires within the whole entire continent. How do you think pyramids were built? Do you think they put themselves up? They were built by Africans themselves. There is technology, there is knowledge that was built, discovered, and studied by the Africans themselves. But when slavery came to the land, to the homeland, that technology was stolen out of the continent. Those who had the knowledge killed, and the rest of them were turned into slaves. And then as much technology was taken out of the Africa, and they made sure that now one single African people, now one single African person could actually recreate the same technology. This is why when you go to places like the Democratic Republic of the Congo, you find uranium. Yet, the Democratic Republic of the Congo doesn't have any nuclear weapon, no nuclear energy. They don't have anything that's being used by nuclear, resources, which they have plenty of within the belly of the land. You have so much resources on the African continent, but the brain power that should be using it, that should be giving birth to things out of these resources, it's no longer there. So Wednesdays, we get to talk about our testimony. We get to rewrite our history and essentially waking up who we are as truly kings and queens of Africa. Because that is who you are. On Thursdays, we get to talk about the spirit of dominion. Speaking of which, you cannot dominate what you do not understand. You cannot dominate what you don't have control over. You cannot dominate what you have not mastered yet. So when we talk about the dominion of Africa, we're talking about governing Africa, ruling Africa, controlling Africa, mastery or mastering Africa, managing all resources from within and out of the continent. You have to be able to have a full understanding, a full management skill set of all the resources at your disposal. Hence, complete and total dominate of Africa. So on Thursdays, we get to talk about that and we get to break it down in a such way that you can actually understand it. On Fridays, we talk about the current events and the impact towards Africa and African people. This may or may not be something that you have seen in the mainstream media, or something that you have heard somewhere that nobody has paid attention to. So long as we find it necessary, if we find it important to share it with each and every one of you, we get to talk about it. The good news, you get to drive the agenda. So with that in mind, those are the themes from Mondays through Fridays. And of course, today is Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementations. So today's topic, we want to talk about who is responsible for writing your Constitution, your laws, your policies, etc. in your country. Now, let me also pull it out here that to some of you, this is obvious. But for the rest of you, this is something that you do not even think about. It is something that you do not even consider. It is something that you don't think it's any of your business. Hence, us talking about it today. The Constitution, the laws written, the policies written are a huge, big deal to you. In case you didn't know that. Remember, the Constitution, it's a legal document. It is an agreement with you, every single one of you, in your respective country. And the few citizens that you select to actually oversee the management of the entire nation, the management of the leadership. We call those few individuals that they run, organizations such as a government or a public institution working on your behalf. So that is something of a big deal, especially if it affects your life. So young people, those of you who have never cared to know what the, what your executive branch is doing, your legislation branch is doing, and your judicial branch is doing, it is big deal. It affects your everyday life, with or without you having a saying in it. So imagine if there is a law that's put out there with the purpose of governing you, with the purpose of overseeing your best interest. Wouldn't it be crazy that you wouldn't have a saying in it, yet it would actually guide you? To make matters worse, you not knowing anything about it. So today we want to be able to find out who's actually responsible for writing these constitutions all over Africa. Who's responsible for writing these laws and these policies. And you, as a citizen, do you get consulted before, during, and after the completion of these initiatives? Do you bother to know what they are doing? Furthermore, do you ever get consulted before, during, and after an agreement between your country and another nation? Or you leave it to the smarties, you leave it to the expert, as they usually call it? What is your role in all of this as an individual? What is your role as a family? What is your role as a community, even as a nation? So this is what I want to talk to you about today, guys. And for those of you young people who barely care about any of this, I want you to know that your country is being ran by the people who have, most of them don't have any interest in you as a person, as a family, as a community, primarily. The interest is theirs primarily. So how do we change that? You gotta know what these laws are about. By the way, when we talk about constitution, laws, and policies, these are the same thing. They differ in a slight, in something very small. A constitution is a supreme agreement between the people and the government, or the group of individuals that they have selected to run the resources, the management of that nation on behalf of the rest of the people. The laws are still agreement also. However, a constitution, you cannot just change it. It requires an entire nation to agree on what that constitution has to have. A law is not it doesn't take as much resources or as much energy to change as a constitution. You have a body of another group of citizens that you entrust to go and study quickly what you need in your community, what you need in your region, and so on. They get together and they come up with that among themselves. Whatever they agree, they get, it becomes a law in the country implemented. Whereas the Constitution, each and every one of you as a people have a saying in it. But this law, you trust these people to go and study them, and then they report back to you. Hey, these are our foundings. Are you okay with this? If you say yes, they move on with it. Policies, they are also agreements. However, these little agreements now, they no longer have to be bound by a region. They are much more controlled in a very small environment. For instance, there are policies that run the studio. But we don't have the same policy that run the entire building. So there's a set of instructions that allow us all here to do what we have to do to function properly. They're only limited to us as a studio. But as a building, there's now a bigger policy that even our studio has to adhere to if we want to stay in the same building, if we want to also stay on the same path as the rest of the people working in this area. The laws, they actually encompass a much broader area, which means these laws not only they can actually apply to multiple buildings, multiple people, many people all over, but they could be also confined to a specific neighborhood, a specific region, a specific village, and so on. They are still set of instruction, however, a bit more broader. And then the Constitution covers the entire nation. Are we together? So these are all agreement. They simply differ in the size of the coverage. Hence, you wanting to know, wanting to be sure that they are actually representing you. It's imperative. It is imperative. So young people, again, as I ask you today, have you ever cared to know who has been responsible for your country's constitution? I live in the United States right now, and I've been reading the Constitution and actually checking it out. There are 56 men, and behind those 56 also they had some other people who helped them to actually draft the Constitution. These men were drafting this Constitution behind the back of the British Kingdom. Because before the United States was a republic, it was a colony. What is a colony? A colony is a territory ruled by another kingdom. It's a distant territory ruled by a kingdom. A kingdom is a form of government. So the United States was a colony, was an extension of the United Kingdom here in the Northern America. Whatever that was done in England, it was also done in the United States. It was literally copy and paste. It was just the United Kingdom, bigger in another territory. This is why many kingdoms conquer regions. Every region or any region that they conquer, they make it just like the motherland, just like the main kingdom. How do you get to know that this is a kingdom here versus another kingdom there? The first and the primary thing you will get to know, it's the language. In UK or the United Kingdom, they speak English, Queen's English. United States had to speak English. You get to also find the culture. The same culture in the United Kingdom had to be the same culture in the United States. They had to have a group of citizens in charge of the resources, including the people. The people are subjects in kingdoms, which is one of the things that the United States refused when they declared independence. The king owns the people personally. So I understand why when Belgium took over the Democratic Republic of the Congo, back in the days it was Congo, King Leopold, Africans were his property, his personal property. That's why he could kill you. He could slice your hands off. He could do whatever it is he wanted to do with you, because that's what kingdoms do. Now, these kingdoms also, they differ from your true kingdom, the original kingdom, by which you personally are supposed to inherit, or your true inheritance. These kingdoms, these governments, they have set of laws, set of instructions that are there to manage everything within the territory, which is why we're talking about that. So, going back to the Constitution, the United States has its own Constitution, has its own laws and policies that run the country. Throughout the United States history, you can actually find who's responsible for writing the Constitution, who's responsible for writing a particular piece of legislature that turns into a law, who's responsible for writing down various policies. Whereas on the other flip side in Africa, they will not tell you who wrote the Constitution. They don't put their names on it. Or when you go through the research, you will not find who wrote that. And this is where now I'm coming into you people, you Africans. If an outsider is writing a piece of legislature, that becomes a supreme agreement between you and your government, and you have absolutely no idea who wrote it. You have absolutely no single clue what's in it. You have not been consulted thoroughly before it was drafted, during its review and modification, and right before it becomes now the law of the land. You have not been given an opportunity to take part in those things. How dare do you call yourself a citizen when the very first main obligation you have never participated in? Young people, I am talking to you. Today, your country has a set of instructions that as soon as you come out of your mother's belly, as soon as you are born, those set of instructions, they actually guide you. You deviate from them, there are consequences. They are both privileges and benefits, but they also have some warnings. Why is it that they have never cared to tell you that, listen, young people, your whole entire life, you must get to know this very important agreement that as a country, we follow. And and they usually tell you, unless you are a lawyer, unless you have some sort of legal background, don't worry about this. That's why we have lawyers. That isn't correct. You cannot be a good citizen if you have no idea what your obligations are to the country and what the obligation of the country is towards you. What your benefits, your obligations, your privileges, your rights, and so on. You as a citizen, you must be able to know that. And the only way to know that is if you are aware of it and you get to participate in that. So young people, whose responsibility is it that you know what's in the Constitution? Whose responsibility is it that you know what the local laws stipulates? Whose responsibility is it that you get to know policies that guides your small neighborhood? It is you directly. And it is you who should be suggesting these policies, these laws, and the Constitution. Because ultimately, it affects your direct life. If you do not know what's in it, you are never going to have the life you're supposed to be living. Your whole entire potential. You won't be able to arrive. You won't be able you will not be able to actually reach your fullest, life potential. Because these laws are there to set a perimeter, boundaries that you cannot get past. They are there to help us better manage ourselves, better manage our resources, better manage our relationships between ourselves, even between other nations with us. So these very few people in government are not the only people responsible for these laws. All of us, we are responsible, including you young people who think that you should care less about it. So let me go back again to what I had asked you earlier. Now that you know that you're responsible, for your own constitution as a nation, for the laws enacted in your region, in your villages, in your communities, even amongst you as a family, you should have some sort of set of laws that you follow. Even personally, you should have some sort of guidelines that help you to live your life and maximize your potential. Do you not think that you also need to know the laws, the agreements that your nation has with your neighbors, or with any nation that would like to actually have some sort of cooperation with you, some sort of relationship with you? You have many agreements between nations that are signed by you as a people. You have zero clue in what's going on with them. Do you not think that they have an impact? Oftentimes negative impact to your personal life, to your family life, your community life. Young people, if we are going to take back the full dominion of Africa. We got to start from scratch. You have to literally understand every piece of information, every little brick that constructs your nation. You have to understand everything that goes in it. Everything. Because ultimately that is your life. That is your family's life, your community, your village, your nation's life. So let alone you crossing over and going to your neighbors. And you have some sort of agreement with them, not knowing both its positive and its negative impact towards you. For instance, I showed you the agreement, the Status Force, the United States Status Force agreement that was signed between the United States and Rwanda. Remember, Rwanda, it's a sovereign nation. By the way, for those of you, the reason why I just picked out Rwanda, I was born in Rwanda. I know a bit more of Rwanda, so I can actually give some examples out of Rwanda because I really follow very much of what's going on here, just like I follow what's going on here in the United States. So the United States, on May 28th, 2020, have signed a military status force with the Republic of Rwanda. That agreement is one of the most terrible agreements, in my opinion, have ever seen drafted between a nation and another nation. And I'll let you know why. The United States was able to secure all the benefits that it's looking for from Rwanda. But Rwanda secured zero benefit, or at least on that piece of paper that I was reading, I have not seen a single benefit that Rwandese people have out of those agreements. And I get to ask you, young people, if I have a laundry list of the things that I would like, and you have zero laundry list of the things that you like, yet we call that we have an understanding, we have a cooperation between two nations. What's wrong with that picture? An agreement entails that there are some benefits that I see, that I can actually receive from you. The same way there are some benefit you would need from me, and we sort of like some sort of understanding. How is it that up to this very day, the same agreement are in full force from the presidency, from the executive branch of Rwanda, all the way to the very basic, to the very low administrator within the government? Not one single person has yet to come out and be like, excuse me, there's something wrong with this agreement. Where are the interests of the people, of the Rwandese people? Where is the interest of the Rwandese people? Have you consulted any Rwandese people during this agreement? And the answer is hell no. Who's responsible for these agreements? The foreign minister, the Rwandan foreign minister, and the United States ambassador, current ambassador who's there. Why is this foreign minister not fired? And he claims to be looking out the interest, the very best interest of the people. Minding you, these ministers, they have gone to the flag of Rwanda and they say, I am going to seek out the very best interest of the people and help you God if you get it wrong. They're committing treason up in the open and nobody says anything about it. Which is why, young people, again, when we come in here and we say, whose responsibility is it to secure your interest, to secure your family's interest, to secure your community interest, to secure your village interest, and to secure your country's interest. That comes from you directly. You must be involved if you are to see changes, the changes that have good impact for you. Good impact to you as an individual, as a family, as a community. If you do not get involved, obviously someone else take charge, such as these military status forces agreement between like the United States and Rwanda. Guys, Google it. When you go to State Department, Google this, the military status force, the United States status force, military status force between the United States and Rwanda. That's one example. The United States has plenty of status force agreement with many African nations, almost similar to the same agreements, to the same agreement that was signed with Rwanda. These nations have very little to request. They have very little to show as benefits. And that is unheard of. This is where the accountability, who is responsible for drafting this agreement, first and foremost? Who is responsible to secure the best interest of the people? You have to be able to know that so they can be accountable if they do not secure those interests, and you have given them the duty to secure these interests. It will be so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what you would call it, but it will be so irresponsible. It is irresponsible for a nation, especially if you are now under slavery, modern slavery, to allow another nation to come and do as they please in your territory, and you have nothing to say about it. These constitutions are being violated openly. The local laws are being violated openly. The policies are being violated openly. And there is no sense of what supersedes the Constitution. Is anything that supersedes the Constitution? International agreements or international countries or countries' agreements should never supersede your Constitution as a people. If these agreements supersede your own Constitution, do you know what you become? That's a homework I'm going to give you, all of you listening young people. So again, if you are listening to this program and you happen to be an African and you happen to be a young person, even those of you who are grown-ups, I want to ask you, do you know what's written in your country's constitution? Do you know what's written in the laws that are driving you nuts every single day? In the laws that are making your life the most amazing lives? Do you know what's in it? Do you understand the policies written behind it? Have you had any saying in any of these agreements? If the answer is no, I am asking you in this 2022, go take some time and read, young people. They say black people, if you want to hide something from black people, even though this is stereotype, they say hide it in a book. Young people, go and read. If you cannot read, make videos. Have someone else read it and make an audio out of it. Whatever it is you need to do, become aware of how your nation is being ran. From the executive branch all the way to the very executive who's running your neighborhood. It is responsible for you to give up your management, to give up your own personal life and give it up to someone else to run it. You become a slave to that somebody. Because what they do, you have no saying in it. You have absolutely no saying in it. So again, with the example that I have given you, which you can right now Google and find, if Rwanda is a sovereign nation, and the agreement that it has had with the United States has obviously a conflict of interest. Rwanda gets 0, the United States gets 100% of what they have asked for. What you as a people do you have to say about those agreements? If all things equal, if everything was flipped, do you think that the United States would agree to have 0 benefit and Rwanda gets 100%? Again, I submit to you humbly that the answer would be hell no. So why are we doing this? Go study your nations. Go study the agreements that the big 5 nations that runs the United Nations have had with you. The United Nations has 5 countries that have permanent seats. These are like the parents of the rest of the world. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. Whatever they say goes to the rest of the world. And after all, you call yourself sovereign. If these 5 guys can tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and you have 0 saying in it, who's the master, who's the slave? Again, if these 5 guys can actually determine your life, and you call yourself self-determining, whose joke is it? The joke is on you. In a piece of paper, everything is beautiful. However, in the actuality, it isn't so. There is a need to liberate our minds from mental slavery, guys. There is a need to liberate ourselves from these agreements, these cited agreements. There is a need for you to take some time and write your own constitution, the supreme agreements between you as a people in your own nation. Once you secure that, go back on the drawing boards, write now another set of agreement in your own little local neighborhoods that best run your ways of lives to the best of your abilities. These are the things we call laws. In your own interest first and foremost. Break it down even further. In your own small neighborhood, look what works best in your neighborhoods. Set up a set of instructions or policies that help you manage, help you run your neighborhood better in the way that actually maximize your well-being as a people. These things you do not have to go to Cambridge. You do not have to go to any of these Ivy League universities to do. It's already inside of you, young people. You just have to awaken it. You have to wake it up. Case in point. Who reminds you when to breathe? You? Breathing through your nose. Who reminds you when to breathe? Do you ever have to go to any university and get a degree in breathing for you to live your life? Do you go to any secondary school or high school and get a diploma that you have successfully completed classes for breathing? Do you go to elementary school and take a class in breathing? The answer is no. But you guys don't really think about some of these things. The minute you came out of your mother's womb, they gave you a little nudge and your body, your system automatically activated. And it started doing what it was already designed to do. Deep within you, you already have all set of instructions for self-governing. You already have all sets of instructions for self-discipline. Everything you need, it's within you. That's why you have been given a contract to manage the resources of your homeland, Africa. However, if you do not know who you are from within you, you will not be able to run your homeland. You will not be able to run your families, your communities, your villages, and your nation. Someone is going to come and dupe you, give you a horrible agreement, and you will sign it because you have no idea what's good for you. You have no idea where your interest lies. So it is about time that we learn from scratch, how do we take back control of our own affairs for primarily our own interest. And this is no way suggesting that we are neglecting the rest of the world. You cannot help the rest of the world if you cannot help yourself. And quite frankly, that's what's happening. Why do you flee to the United States? Why do you flee to Canada? Why do you flee to the United Kingdom? Why do you flee to France? Why do you go to Australia, China, Russia, outside of Africa? Because you have lost control of your own homeland. You have lost control of your own contract to self-manage, to self-govern. And these contracts lie within the countries that you so choose to go to, because they have finally secured their own management. The management of their own resources, the management of everything within their nations. Or at least they do it so much better than us as Africans. So naturally, we want to go with things are in order, because that responsibility, someone else has it, and they are executing it beautifully. And of course, when you arrive there, now they are in a position where they can tell you what to do. They can give you now their own set of instructions. And sadly, you can't say anything unless they extend the privilege for you to become one of them. If you are not one of them as a people, meaning if you do not have a citizenship of any of these nations, you are excluded from having a word in the management of these homelands, of their own resources there. You have already lost the privilege of running your own resources at home. You move out of your home, you move out of your homeland, you go to a distant territory where you have zero rights, except the generic rights that they give all visitors. You are just a visitor in that homeland. Get to know that. So as a visitor, don't just expect the same thing a citizen has as a privilege. They may make sure that you're not hungry, but they may not be responsible for your well-being, because someone else actually is responsible or should be responsible for your well-being. Guys, this is so clear, only and only if we thought about it. Math is always clear. You will never see where 1 + 1 = 3, even if someone is duping you. All these things are clear, but we lack the discipline to invest time, to invest energy, to fully comprehend them. Once we comprehend them, then put them in action in a way that it secures our best interest primarily. And here at AfriDominion, we are saying we are going for that. So wrapping it up, what is your role after all? I talked about it all. I gave examples. Now, what are you supposed to do? It is our intentions that we inspire you and that we advocate on your behalf, but also we get to advocate together. And we get to encourage you to please become yourself. Become yourself. Take charge, take back charge of your affairs from your own little cocoon at home. Take the affairs of your family if it is your turn to take those responsibilities. If you have yet to take these responsibilities, be in the right position so that you may know how your family business is run. Help out where it's necessary. Look in your own community. Be a pillar in your own community. Get to know how is your community ran. What are the obligations that you as a citizen there should be performing? What are your obligations there? What are the benefits? What are the privileges? What are the rights that you have in that little neighborhood of yours? And expand that all the way to the whole entire nation. You have to take some time and get to know these things, young people. If we are to self-govern, if we are to regain our dominion, our full and total dominion, we're going to have to go back all the way to the very bottom. We are going to have to go all the way to the bottom. To the bottom. You've got to go and review everything. Everything. Including the so-called top secrets agreement. Whose top secret is it? After all, these agreements are supposed to be between the people and the government. Nothing should be a top secret. Nothing should be a top secret. It's only a top secret if it is for those few people who are actually inspiring to be your masters. Because obviously they are now going to tell you why they're hiding it from you. So they cannot claim to be representing you. It's strange when you hear a classified agreement. How do you have the audacity to sit in a seat of the people, for the people, and you have the audacity to say that this agreement is classified? This agreement is top secret agreement. And you, as a person, you don't have access to it. We cannot give you access to that. Guys, our countries have become personal, private corporations. In a private corporation, I can have an agreement and I have zero obligation to you. I have zero obligation to report to you, an outsider, what I have agreed with another corporation, with another company, because it's not your business. The minute our nations arrive where you cannot request an agreement signed on your behalf and you are given that agreement, get to know that somehow, without you knowing it or with your ignorance, you have accepted, you have allowed the very same person claiming to represent you to turn you into a private entity or a private corporation. Check your sources. Go back to your legal laws. Young people, this is Agreement 101. You do not need to go to universities to comprehend these things. A sophisticated building, you can break it down all the way to one brick. If it's using bricks, you can break it down to concrete. That was pre-configured. You can break it down to all these pillars that are used. The frames of the building before it looks so fancy. even with you. Stop dressing these laws, these agreements, and make them so sophisticated so that they confuse people. That it is up to you to request these agreements, to request that these laws get to be reviewed by you. It is up to you to actually openly concur that these policies are actually the policies you so chose, you so desired, with the interest, with the benefit that you intentionally are looking for. Not the benefits that have been pre-selected for you. I know it's rough, y'all, but it is the truth and nothing but the truth. So again, is your country a private corporation that is disguising itself as a nation? How will you know that it's a private corporation? Go to any branch of your government. Introduce yourself the way you should. Tell them the purpose of your visit. Put a request in of any of the agreement that particular branch has had. Put a request for a report of how they are doing. Remember, you're the boss. They are your employees. It's not the other way around. Remember, public servant. Public servants. The Constitution, the laws, these policies are executed by these public servants and you. Not just one person. There are a set of instructions that allow us to run our day-to-day operations as nations, as regions, as villages, as communities, as families, etc. If you are not aware of this set of instructions, how can you adhere to them? How will you know when they are not being followed? Are you getting where I'm going with this? So you need to go back to the drawing boards, guys. Go back to the drawing boards. Go back and review everything. If they deny you the access to a report, the access to an agreement, take it to what they call a court, also known as a judicial system. The judicial system is there to ensure that this set of instructions is followed properly, and if there are any disputes, this body of citizens can give you an interpretation of what these set of instructions are supposed to be doing. They basically break the conflict. If it says every month you should get a report of what this public servant is doing in this division, you don't have to request it. It is their job, their obligation to send you the report. And it is your obligation as a citizen chief in that domain to review and tell them, hey, well done. Hey, what's wrong with this picture? This sounds so simple, but you'll be so shocked. How many of you take the time to swing back the board, to take charge? But don't worry though, that's why we're talking about it today. Some of you, if you don't get it right now, you will get it 20 years from now. But we would rather you getting it at the end of this year so we can have some changes in our countries. In fact, I would even rather love it if you actually get it right now. If you do not get it, please go back to this whole entire program. We are taking the time to reach out to you young people all over Africa, even outside of Africa. If you know you're a son, a daughter, an African descendant, doesn't matter where you are, you need to awaken yourself up. Wake yourself up. Wake yourself up. Take back charge of who you are as a person. regardless of where you are. But take back, reclaim your true identity. Nothing wrong with being you. Remove the facade of who you're not. Reclaim your true identity. Get in the right position. Change your thinking. Change the way you think. Change the way you think. And reclaim your true dominion, your true control, your true mastery, your true government, your true self-government. And then take back all that gifts from within and share it with the rest of the world. But start with your own people first. You cannot share what you cannot appropriate yourself. It's impossible. It's imperative. It's really, 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 really imperative. Now, I know that most of you, oftentimes you are intimidated, especially we are not accustomed to talking like these Africans, especially in these foreign nation, in these foreign tongues. Right now, I would be speaking in Kinyarwanda. That's my native tongue, which means I will be primarily addressing to my fellow Rwandans. However, the minute I speak another language, it entails that any single individual who understands that other language, I'm actually communicating with them as well. So given that we know that Africa has also been colonized by the English-speaking kingdoms, today you can speak English. Even though you are in Republic, the only way you are speaking English because it was given to you by force from many, many, many centuries ago. Your ancestors were forced to speak English. And they were absolutely forced to drop their local dialect. Right now in Rwanda, there is a huge crisis in the education arena, among so many crises. You see the best building being built, Kigali Arena, clean streets in the capital. But the system is a wreck. The system is dying. In Rwanda, it is prohibited for a student to learn in the local dialect in the primary schools. Mark my words. It is prohibited for a student to learn in a local dialect. They say only learn in English. Now, this is another Rwandan citizen telling this child whose native language isn't English is being compelled to learn the very basic of the basic elements in school in English, yet they have not taught that child adequate English. Are you setting this child for success, or are you setting this child for failure? Only kingdoms forced its subjects to become like the kingdom in the motherland. Today, Rwanda forces its population, its citizens. Good example just gave you. In school, a teacher who has never learned English has to use English to teach. If you cannot do that, they fire you. If you have studied in French and you cannot speak English, you gotta go. English is the supreme language in Rwanda right now. Do your homework again. I am speaking publicly. Kinyarwanda, every single person who comes out of the belly of their mother is speaking Kinyarwanda in Rwanda. English is introduced to you a little bit afterwards. If you don't have the resources to allow you to go learn English, Let me break it down a little further. If you do not have money, if you ways of life, if you are a farmer and you make ends meet through your farm, you go and you get a few things out of your farm and you sell them. The only source of income that you have is through your farm. Your child, for them to go learn English, the same way they speak Kinyarwanda, you're gonna have to invest so much money in teaching that child the English as a second language. How is it that the government of Rwanda, the Department of Education, in good faith, in good conscience, forced the entire nation that has never learned English to switch the system to English and teach a child who doesn't even know how to say hello to study in English? It's like me all of a sudden being demanded to speak to you in Chinese, and I do not know Chinese, to write in Chinese, to think like the Chinese people. While there's nothing wrong with Chinese as a language, there is everything wrong with me learning the Chinese, me being demanded to function using the Chinese language when I have not had the opportunity to learn the language the same way I have mastered my native language. Young people, if you're listening to what I'm saying, please take action. See if in your country there are things being imposed upon you that you must follow, yet you have no idea why they're imposing those things on you. Whose interest is it? Is it primarily your interest or an outsider's interest? If someone claims to represent you in your nation, in your local community, at school like a teacher, and this teacher doesn't have the audacity to speak on your behalf to the director of the school, the principal of the school, and actually compel that principal of the school that, listen, it is impossible for me to take classes in Chinese when you have never equipped me in Chinese language. It's been 28 years since the RPF, which is the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the rebel, the current government took power in Rwanda. The whole entire system that was bilingual, French and Kinyarwanda, has been transformed to English primarily. There's very little Kinyarwanda, very little Kinyarwanda in the entire management of the nation. Millions of Rwandans are more fluent in Kinyarwanda, and they speak a little English, a little French, some Swahili, and whichever other few dialects that they speak. Can you see yourself becoming successful if you conduct business in a language that you have no knowledge of, that you have not mastered? You speak to someone who claims to be a doctor, and they're struggling to formulate a sentence in English. This person has mastered whatever it is they went to study, either in French or another language, but because they're working for the government, they have been told, unless you speak in English, you're fired. We do not need you. I get to ask you again, in whose interest is this government, the current government in Rwanda, working for? I even asked the same question to you, the international community. If you would not compel your child here in the United States to go and start speaking Chinese in primary school, in high school, in the university, if you would not compel them to speak Chinese, to function in Chinese, to legislate in Chinese, to run business in Chinese, Why would you dare? Why would you compel another nation to force its own people to assimilate to your ways of life? If you are not a master in this country, is a slave. If you are not trying to become a modern kingdoms, but without the kingdom culture, without the kingdom legislature openly declared, it's unconscionable for nations to want your ways of life be imposed to another nation when you have not declared the conqueror of that other nation. Kingdoms conquered and they have colonies. The republics, they do what? They occupy. Occupation, it's a new word for colonization. A democratic country cannot colonize another country, but they can occupy another country, another nation. They run the same policies as in the kingdoms. However, they just give it another name. Young people, open your eyes and see what I'm saying, because if you scrutinize your ways of life, you will see some similarities. And unfortunately, the so-called smart people in your nations are so close-minded to these things. Some have been forced to sign these agreements. Others, they're looking after their own personal interest instead of the respect of the nation, instead of the interest of you as a people. And you are taking a nap and you are asleep, happily sleeping. And then you wake up, you're like, what's going on? What's happening? Guys, wake up. Wake up. Wake up. If you're truly going to take the full responsibility of you as individual, if you're going to self-govern, if you're going to self-discipline, you need to check yourself out. What kind of set of instructions do you have that you follow daily? If you're going to have to manage and take full responsibility, take full accountability of your families, of your communities, all the way to your national level, you must know, how is your community, your village ran? Are you aware of how it's ran? Are you responsible of what's happening there? Or do you actually push the responsibility to somebody else? Who takes the accountability and the responsibility of your mishaps there? Is it you, or you point finger to somebody else? This year, 2022, if you're here, if you're actually listening to me in this language, in English, I would very much encourage you. Go in your own country, whatever country you live in right now. Start from the Constitution. Read your local laws. Read some policies in your neighborhood. Policies, laws, and Constitution, these are all the same. These are a set of instructions with the purpose of helping us manage a nation, regions, and little neighborhoods. If I can just break it down in simple words. These are a set of instructions, bottom line. One is much more tougher, and it covers everybody. All of us, we are under a constitution in every single nation. A law, like here in the United States, there is a law that governs the United States, Washington, D.C., as a capital city, as a nation capital. There is a law that is explicitly to the state of Maryland, to the state of Virginia, to the state of West Virginia, because this is just a nation inside of another big nations. The laws in Maryland can differ from the laws of Virginia or from the laws of Washington, D.C. But the law of the Constitution covers Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland, or something they call federal laws. These are the laws that governs all the states. The Constitution is the supreme law that covers the entire land. So young people, you have a lot of homework to do. You parents, you sellers of Africa, sellers of your own respective countries, before you go to prison, be truthful to your people. Tell them what you have done. Even say, I am sorry, I was so ignorant about this. But as of today, I relinquish the privileges to represent you because I have done a lousy job. I have not sought after your very best interests as a people, and for that I am truly sorry. This is what I have done. These are the agreements I have signed on your behalf. Find it within you to forgive me. Because you have been a lousy leader. You have been a lousy representative of a nation, of a region, of a community, of a family. If you have committed treason, there is a chance that you could be forgiven. But if we have to find out that you've committed treason, then you are going to feel the fullest extent of the law. There should be no exception, because that's why we have this set of agreements, these agreements between the people and the representatives of the people, and between ourselves. So, what are our takeaways? What are you going to do today, young people? Again, find it within you to go learn your Constitution. If you don't know what it is, type your country name and then Constitution. There is a body in your nation. Most of the nations today, we only have very few kingdoms remaining on planet Earth. The rest of the nations are republics. Most of these republics, they have three branches. They have executive branch, then they have the legislature branch, and then they have the judicial branch. You can find the Constitution literally from the legislature branch. Go find out the rest of the laws from there as well. Your government should have the Constitution out there. You should be able to find out and know. By the way, who wrote this Constitution? Go to the Library of Congress here in the United States. They even have an open website. They do not hide what they put there. Look at the Constitution of the United States and the signatures, those who actually signed it, the people responsible for putting it together. And of course, there are many others who came up with some clause. But they are explicit signatures of those individuals who have signed it, who have come up with it. Go to the Constitution of Rwanda. Tell me, who is responsible for that piece of document? Would you even know? Would you even know who was responsible to write it? And I submit to you. Remember what I said to you? Today, the government is forcing a child who doesn't know how to write to speak in English, and they have no idea how to say hello. It's mandatory. They're forcing a teacher who has never studied in English to teach English. Mandatory, or you get fired. What kind of country are we living in today? What kind of tomorrow are we seeking with these policies, with these laws? Why is it that the Constitution has been completely ignored in Rwanda and the rest of the African nations? Why is it that we have become slaves, modern slaves when we claim that we are republics, if you cannot self-govern, someone else is governing you. You might as well accept that someone is controlling your life, because that's what's happening. It can be dressed in any way, shape, and form, but it does not change what it is. They say if you take a lion and you give it a new suit that it looks like a tiger, it is still a lion, even though you've given it a tiger's, a tiger's suit. If you take a pig and you somehow give it a cow's cover, it is still a pig. So if you take a kingdom, as we have seen back in those days, those kingdoms that enslaved Africa, and you dress it as a republic, and you give it to the Africans, it is still going to be a kingdom. If you bring a piece of legislature and you call it a constitution, and this piece of legislature isn't for the people, by the people, it is still it is still what is the constitution. Fill in the blanks. So guys, that's all I had to say for today. Again, whose responsibility is it? Figure it out. Because in this 2022, we have a responsibility, all of us as African, to take back what is rightfully ours. One step at a time. Is it gonna be easy? I don't think so. Do you have the heart for it? I would say yes. Absolutely. Now, are you willing to take the first step and reclaim your identity and reclaim your true self? That's for you to answer. I submit to you that nobody is going to do what you are now willing to do for yourself in this whole entire planet Earth. Especially if you claim that you are a matured person. With that in mind, thank you so very much. Thank you for all those of you tuning in to this program. A huge thanks to networks, HMG Network and affiliates for broadcasting this program and distributing this program. If you like this program, please reach us out on our website, www.afridominion.com. Shoot us a message using our email, info@afridominion.com. Give us some feedbacks, give us some recommendation, give us a hand, support us. We are absolutely taking support. Soon we will also let you know how you can further support us in these initiatives. We are absolutely going for it, guys. And we ask no apologies to nobody except us. It is yours, it is your inheritance, and so act like it, okay? And so with that in mind, I am super grateful, guys, for the privilege of standing here, of sitting here, and share with you the things closest to my heart. A huge thanks to Afri Dominion Show for the opportunity to share with you guys. So I am Freeman Singirankabo here at Afri Dominion. I want to wish all of you a beautiful day. Be well in your ways. Seek out the very best version of you. Go and read the Constitution. Go and read your local laws. Go and read your policies. Become the best version of a citizen you were meant to be, okay? And take charge of your nation. Take full dominion of your nation with no apologies. Until next Tuesday, we'll see you again. And by the way, tomorrow also we get to see you guys. So have a beautiful day and God bless. Until tomorrow. Peace.